Hello everybody, Deanna here, and thanks so much for being here. So in today's video, I am going to be showing you my August 2022 reading journal, and I'm going to be going through a recap of the books that I read in August 2022. So let's get into it. So here is the first of my August 2022 reading journal. I also had my August TBR for this year, which I had a list of books that I had put on my to be read list to ensure that I read some of these books for the month, and as you see, I checked off a bit of them. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 7 books that I had on my TBR. So first what we're going to do is we're going to go through my list one at a time. So starting with Cersei. So Cersei was one of the first books that I read in August 2022, and I absolutely adored it. So here is my Cersei spread that I created because I just absolutely love this book so much. I listened to it by audiobook through the Audible app, and I absolutely loved it. I would throw it on, especially anytime I was journaling or anything like that, maybe even just doing different activities. I would have this book on and playing, and it was just such a great read. There was definitely a few times when I got pretty emotional listening to it because there are a few scenes that I wasn't really expecting as much, so there is probably a bit of trigger warnings. I mean, it is Greek mythology, and whenever you're reading Greek mythology, sometimes you have to be mindful of how some of these myths went, and sometimes especially what happened to some of the women within these myths, and that was very true for Cersei. But I created a whole spread for the book Cersei. I even kind of did a very funny attempt, my attempt at what the title looked like. Again, I didn't have this book, I just saw it on my Audible app, but I recreated the cover as best that I could, and then I just have a few points here. And honestly, this was just a wonderful book. Very, very well written, very engaging story, just incredible. I have a whole video dedicated just to this book because this book is just phenomenal and I loved it. Definitely a 5-star book. I completely encourage you to check it out if you haven't read it, but I absolutely loved this book so much. Probably like one of my favorite reads of August was this book itself. Then we're on to Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. So Ariadne, the Ariadne book, I also created a full spread for it because I did enjoy it. It wasn't a 5-star because it wasn't quite like the best book. There was some critiques that I have about this book, especially the ending, but it was definitely a 4-star read, so it was a really good read. I still enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the writing style, I just didn't like how the ending went, so the ending was a little different. Probably would have bumped it up to a 5-star, especially just some of the characters, how they kind of got destroyed. There was a bit of character assassination going on near the end of the book. But I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed just, again, there was an Ariadne book cover that was similar to the face, just the one face. So I thought that was so fitting to have that. But I really enjoyed this book so much. It was such a great read. Just had a fabulous time with it. Not a 5-star again, but I still really enjoyed a lot of this book. My favorite character would probably have been Dionysus. I apologize if I butcher his name. I'm so bad at saying his name. But I really liked his character for most of it. Didn't really like where his character went. And I liked parts of Ariadne. I liked seeing some of the different things going on, like getting to know a bit more of like the backstory and things like that. It was very interesting how Jennifer explored some of that, and just her take on this I thought was very interesting, and getting it from a lot of Ariadne's point of view, and then also the duality between her point of view and then her sister Pedro, which I did not know much about. I found that so fascinating and so interesting. And then I drew these little ones myself from just some of the different parts in the book. You know, we had the string that she gives to Theseus. We've got the grapes that represent the god of wine and madness and just pretty much fun and parties, almost pretty much is what he is very representative of. And then we've got the wine glass as well, and I just found those really fun to draw. And I love the quote here. Was one of my favorite quotes of the novel. I found there was actually a lot of quotes that I really liked in this book. Like I said, the writing style was really nice, and it had some really nice passages and words and just quotes and things. And this one is, "I know that human life shines more brightly because it is but a shimmering candle against an eternity of darkness, and it can be extinguished with the faintest breeze." And yeah, just that's kind of like the writing style that you're going to get in this book. So that was beautiful. I absolutely did love that, and I loved a lot of the story up until the ending. The ending felt rushed. It felt just out of place from what we were getting, and just suddenly like we're going one way and then all of a sudden everything switches and it's like this other way, and I just didn't like that as much. But other than that, it was a good read. The next one on the list is The Woman in the White Kimono by Anna Johns. So this one was actually a book club read. So we've got The Woman in the White Kimono, and this one again deserved a full spread. I don't do this for every book that I read. I just felt like I read some really powerful books about like some very interesting women in August, so I had to do a whole spread. I just love this so much, and I had some craft paper that really like fit kind of the style of The Woman in the White Kimono, because we've got that, you know, Japanese inspiration, so I had to use that. And like this little bird as well is just such a big thing in the novel. I just had to tie it all together. And then again, I kind of did a smaller version of the cover of The Woman in the White Kimono. It just kind of fit with the other two almost, except this is a side profile, and I just did a little smaller to give it a little bit more room for the other elements that I had created for this spread. So this was a book club choice for August, and I read it. I was not really expecting this book in what it became and where it really took me on this adventure. I did not realize the historical background information about this book and the women in the 1950s, and especially the Japanese women, and how that they were impacted, and the children. And oh, there's just so much that made me very emotional reading this, especially when it's so much of it is based on facts and real history. It just really, really got me. And I found this one was such a beautifully written point of view. I go more into it in my video on this book, but there is the dual point of views, and I just think that Anna did a fantastic job on this book with her writing style. And my favorite quote, again, this one had so many nice quotes and just such a great writing style. My favorite quote in this book was, "In the struggle of stone and water, water eventually wins. Since my family's mind is set like stone, I must persist like water to change it." I really liked that. I really resonated with that. My love of water and just the symbolism that created. It's just beautiful. But this one was definitely another 5-star read. Absolutely incredible book. Absolutely loved it. It was so sad at the end. So sad by the end. Like so many emotions. but beautiful. Then I read 2 mysteries. One of them was The Maid by Nita Prose, which I listened to this by audiobook because I just think audiobook is such a great format for listening to this one. I'd heard that it was a good format for it, and so I thought I would go ahead and listen to it, and I really did enjoy the narrator and really enjoyed the book. And then there was Piece of My Heart by Mary Higgins Clark and Alifair Burke, which I had got in a bag of books from my Nana-in-law. So these were 2 mysteries that I read, and I made like a whole spread, kind of like a mystery whodunit. It's kind of not an amazing spread, but I thought it was kind of cute with like the magnifying glass and like the eye really fit kind of, and like I like the quote from Ray Bradbury, which is "Mysteries abound where most we seek answers." So I found both of these novels were really good. I enjoyed both of them. I had a lot of fun listening to the audiobook, trying to figure out kind of what was going on. Was Molly, you know, a reliable narrator? Like, what's kind of happening with all that? That was very interesting. And this one was so character driven and trying to like understand Molly and just kind of some of the character development that happens with her. And then this one is kind of your like typical mystery book in some ways. I feel like your older style kind of mystery where it's very plot driven. It's very much the mystery itself that is driving it, and we're trying to figure out what is the mystery. So they both were very different in a lot of ways. Like I felt this one was a lot more modern, and this one like felt more like it had like your almost Nancy Drew kind of underlining kind of elements in some ways, but they're both like really well done, and I gave them both 5 stars because I just really had a lot of fun with the mysteries that I read. Then we had The Secret Wife by Jill Paul, and I swear to goodness, August was just like my month of like just full spreads for books, because I just read so many books about so many amazing women, and I was just so inspired to like do these whole big spreads, and this one was no exception. This one was even more so because those other books were, you know, the 2 were the Greek myths where it's kind of like characters that are mythological creations practically, you know, they're part of like the gods and the mythology all kind of surrounding some of previous works already done. And then you had The Woman in the White Kimono, which was based on historic fiction, but you had people that were fictional characters created that the author just, you know, had their own story to pretty much create within based on fact. This was even like more so because we have 2 real people. These were real people that this author took and explored the story of very much what happened to the Romanov family in the Russia Empire, and kind of what happened with the, you know, essentially the Tsar of Russia and his children and his wife, and how the, you know, the brutality of what happened to them and the overthrowing of, you know, the revolution and everything like that. So there was so much more like real actual events that we could like pinpoint of this is what happened here and this is what happened here. So there's a lot more of the actual real history involved in this one. You know, I know that The Woman in the White Kimono had some baseline of like real facts, but it wasn't like we were following one person. It was one person that the author had created, whereas these are not fictional people. These are real people who lived real lives. So I think sometimes that made it just that much more emotional for me to read. It was harder to read it sometimes almost because of what happened to the Romanov family, what happened to Tatiana and her siblings and her parents, and it was very, very hard to read sometimes. It was very emotional, just had me bawling sometimes because just thinking of these lives that they had and that were lost. And this was very much a dual point of view as well, much like The Woman in the White Kimono. But The Woman in the White Kimono, I think actually the author did that dual point of view. In my opinion, I enjoyed it more. I actually was more invested in kind of what was going on. Where in this one, I find it was very reminiscent to the Alice Network, which some people like maybe loved that dual point of view. I enjoyed it, but I actually enjoyed the one side of the point of view more than the other. And this one, I enjoyed the point of view where we were kind of learning what was going on in the past more than what was in the present. I mean, we needed a bit of the present to kind of find out what was going on in the past, but sometimes I was like, okay, just get through your thing and let me find out what was going on. Like, I just kept wanting to know more about the actual past. I found the present kind of like, I kind of didn't like the character as much and kind of what happened. There's a lot that happens. It was good. It was a big book. It was a big story. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars because I think sometimes going back and forth sometimes took me out a bit of kind of what was going on with the Romanovs and like how real this is and everything. So it's a risk sometimes the authors take when they take real events and they put a fictional spin on it, because you've got some of this was very real because we have Tatiana's journals, we have like some of the facts that actually happened with this family, and there's a lot of the questions, like, you know, we had like people coming forward and pretending or claiming, I don't want to say pretending, but claiming that they were, you know, lost children or, you know, lost members of this family. Like we had people that said that they were Anastasia, and we had people that said that they were Tatiana and stuff like that. So, and that actually happened. Those are actual events that happened in history where people actually claimed that they were these lost princesses. And so it's just, it's upsetting a bit in ways to think of what happened to this family. This one got me emotional. I have a bigger, I'm getting too much into it. I have a video about this one as well that I definitely encourage you to check out. And if you haven't read The Secret Wife and you're interested in the Romanov story, maybe you like the movie Anastasia, which I loved that movie growing up, check out this book because it was something that really got me exploring more of the Romanov story. The next one that I read, the next 2 I read were Meet Me at Beachcomber Bay by Jill Mansell and A Rose Petal Summer by Katie Ford. I gotta say, after some of the incredible books that I read this month, these 2 just didn't do it for me. These 2 just, I've got them both here. They just didn't do it for me. I'm gonna have a video on this and kind of my thoughts about them more, but they just weren't it for me. They were, they're all right. They you know, I didn't hate them. I read them. I was tempted a little bit to DNF them sometimes though, because I was getting a little bored with them. I found them pretty similar, the 2 of them. I even got a little confused on which one I was reading, but I will explore that more in a video that I post about these 2 books. But essentially, they weren't my favorite. I gave them each 3 stars. I just didn't like them as much. I just didn't like them, but they each got a little section, just kind of give like some reasons why I didn't like them. You know, they just, yeah, they both weren't my favorite when it came to romances, and I just didn't like them as much. But those were that. Then I've got my September TBR for next month, so this month. I'm in September already. I've already started one of the books. I've already started The Home for Unwanted Girls, but on my September TBR list, I've got The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. Apologize if I mispronounced that. That's a book club book that I am going to be reading. I've got The Real Deal by Fern Michaels, The Home for Unwanted Girls by Joanna Goodman, A Secret Kept by Tatiana de Rosnay, A Place Called Home by Joe Goodman, which I swear to goodness, these two are like, these the same person, but we just don't know it. Joanna Goodman and Joe Goodman, I had to like double check. Like, what? Did I write that wrong? But we've got both of them. We got The Shoemaker's Wife by Adrienne Trigiani. And then I've got I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I'm very interested in reading this one. I'm going to read it by audiobook. Really want to get into that one. I've been waiting until September to really give this a good listen. I have heard stories about it. I have heard a bit about, you know, what this is about. I've watched a bit of Sam and Cat. I've, you know, sat around and I knew about iCarly. I'd watched a couple episodes of iCarly, so I definitely am familiar with the actress, so I'm very interested to read her memoir and listen to it. And then, because I didn't finish Homer's Iliad and Odyssey by Barry Powell, I put it on my September. I don't know if this one's going to get done in September because it's a big beast. So this might be like an ongoing TBR, so I don't know if I'm going to put it on every TBR going forward, but I thought I would try and at least put it on September to like really try to knock a bit of it out if I can in September. If not, this might be like a big one that just keeps going until I finally finish it. But yeah, that's my September TBR. And then here's my September main page, which just use some like fall inspired kind of colors, the dark red of the craft paper that I used. We've just got like some of the stickers from my fall pack of sticker pack. Got my books red like I always have. I'm gonna put in my books red here on this like off-white colored dotted paper that I have. So I'm just kind of interested to see how my books read goes, and we've got a lot more to explore for my September books. But then going back to August, I did want to just put a shout out to the quote that I put as my main quote for August, and that was from the book Cersei, because I absolutely love this quote and this book. There were so many good quotes from Cersei. I think like this had so many to choose from. I was kind of like torn between a few, but the one I ultimately picked was, "This is what it means to swim in the tide, to walk the earth and feel it touch your feet. This is what it means to be alive." And just with like the beach theme that I had going to for August, I just thought it was so fitting for that quote. So that was my books read and what I'm going to be reading hopefully in September. That was it for me. That's everything that I did read. I'm pretty happy with everything I read, even though I maybe didn't like the two at the bottom here as much. Still happy that I had a pretty good reading month. But yeah, you win some and some maybe you just don't like as much, but hey, it's all part of the reading journey. So if you like this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you also have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, and you will see me next time. Bye!